Okay, well, it's one of the longer, if not the longest session we've had in the Huts Chamber. And probably already
Felt like it.
ready to, ready to have something to eat or take a break, but we're gonna try and wrap this up here. So, just a couple of things that I looked into after we were last here this morning. The request from the Land Access and Opportunity Board, suddenly occurred to me, maybe there was another committee, since we'd heard so little about this, maybe there's another committee that had jurisdiction here. And I asked around, and it turns out, yes, the Housing and General Committee, that's its name now, has taken up that request, and I think they're planning to recommend in support of it. And that's the one that's a little bit unusual because it's not 1 year, but it's also not sort of permanent. It was a request for 4 years, which is not consistent anyway with most of the other requests that we've had, if any of them. So they're planning to recommend that money for next year, and I said that it sounded like our committee would be happy to support that. The point that I really want to stress is that that money does not need to come out of the one-time funding source that we're looking at.
Is that RAD request?
Yes. Yeah. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, sort of along the same lines, the other sort of larger request that we've been, I think, generally in favor of is money for the conservation districts. And I have been advised that we can, that is in our committee. Nobody else is, well, maybe other committees are, but that's one that'll come from us. And that in that instance, we could say we strongly support that as base funding without having to take it out of the one-time funding that's available, and ask that it come from the general fund. So that's
which one were you just talking about? I'm sorry, I missed the.
I'm sorry, the conservation districts.
Got it. Okay.
So that's between those two. That's a fairly large amount of money, and it brings us back to not the full 10 million, but a number much closer to the original amount that was requested. So that's my update. And I know that Representative Templeman, who had asked to speak earlier, didn't have a chance because we ran out of time. So what I just mentioned quickly, Dave, was that the two larger requests that we've been asked to consider for the Land Access Opportunity Board and for the conservation districts, we don't need to take that money out of any other one-time money request that we've had. So that's good news. So that turns it over to you then.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share with you my thoughts about priorities, and sorry, I'm a little out of breath.
Oh, and I'm sorry. We might have, I'm not sure, Laura, but Representative Wilson needs to leave. I suggested that he could join us on Zoom, and I don't know whether he's here.
I sent him the Zoom link. He has not joined us.
Okay, all right. Let us know maybe he would let us know, but just don't want him to be not part of the conversation if he is able to join. I'm sorry, go ahead, Dave.
So, I mean, as a small state, we are at a disadvantage to produce commodity type farm products at the same low cost as other states. And it seems to me that the pursuit of a larger, more efficient commodity model doesn't seem to fit with the limitations of our state. It seems that perhaps a more boutique, small farm, specialty type solution should be sought, and we can do that with an emphasis on ecological focus. It's a lot easier for a small farm operation that sells product direct to market or has a higher value product that they sell wholesale to be able to actually focus on farm methodologies, meaning that a small farmer has less responsibilities. Their focus is able to be shined on a smaller area, and more energy being thought towards ecological practices. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm just thinking that if there is a grant program that goes out, that it should be focused on smaller farms, not medium-sized farms. It should be opened up in a way that smaller farmers have an opportunity to actually apply for this and have a chance to get it, as opposed to a first come, first served basis. And I think the point that Representative Supernaut made about Maple, I think is a good one. I'd like to see some of the things I mentioned brought as guardrails to this program. I mentioned some yesterday. I would like to see something. I don't expect you all to agree with me, but I think that's kind of it. Sorry, I'm really tired and sprinted up here, so I'm a little winded, but I think that's it. I won't go too far with this.
Representative Levitt?
Well, I'm going to throw something out here, since some things have been taken off our budget sheet and our budget is now looks like under $1 million, just under $1 million. What if, in support of what you just said, what if we took H205 and made that the 250,000 base funding? So this could continue, it wouldn't just be a one-off. So we could do 250 for 2 years.
It occurred to me too.
So
Can we do that?
H205 is intended to, is going to be a base funding request.
Okay, so that means that every year we don't have to sing for it, it's just gonna happen?
That's our request.
Got it, okay. I was not aware of that. Okay, great.
And just to be clear, I'm not sure what you meant when you said down to $1 million.
Well, we've taken like the land access people, that's 1.2 million, that you said housing is taking that up. So we don't need to, we can support it, but it doesn't need to come into money we take out of
Yeah,
the
okay.
Agency of Ag. They're 10 million.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page that we have more money that ultimately is available to keep in the grant program, or to put somewhere else, if we have somewhere else to put it. I don't think that we've got other one-time requests.
Can I lobby for, we haven't talked about it though, for H368, which is the supporting the new farmers? Because that's gonna need to get funded. And that's a grant program.
I don't think, without having taken testimony, that it
No.
would be, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, without having taken testimony, I think it's probably not a good idea. Although I may find when I hear about it that it's a great idea, that the bill is a great idea, but yeah.
It's unfortunate timing that we're putting in a budget and this is a thing that needs to get funded.
Yes, but.
No,
Yeah.
but I get it. We've had a lot of good testimony, so.
Yeah.
Another year. Are you saying H368?
Yeah.
There's no appropriation in it.
Oh, then I'm completely wrong. Okay.
Do you want money? Yeah.
That's why we want to take testimony on it. Appropriate any money for it. So, Mike,
I've heard Representative Graham express since receiving the bill 205 that perhaps the one error that was made in it, that it was an incredible bill, but the one error that might have been made in it is that the appropriation might be too small. And so I'm just wondering if it's worth entertaining the idea. There's a lot of support for that grant program in this committee. There's maybe more tepid support for the bigger other grant program, and maybe it would balance our desires if we said, hey, let's shift a little, beef up that 205 program to allow for more than 15 or so projects. And then also we'll support the bigger grant program that is the other bigger grants, totally different projects.
You're here.
Yeah.
Does that need testimony before we can add it in?
well, no, I don't think so. I mean, we can certainly entertain, questions if you have them, but I'll just mention again that the H205 money is, we're hoping to be base funding.
Yeah.
John?
No, that's exactly.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Would we
$2
need,
million is a lot of years of base funding for $2,000 program.
would we need to make an amendment to change that or change the wording of the original bill?
Well, we're still marking up to a.
Ah, very good.
We would, and we can
Make that change.
still make that change, yeah. And I think that if we feel today, this afternoon, that that's where we're gonna land, we can make a note of that, send it off to appropriations that that's coming, and ask them to be ready to get that. Yeah. Okay, so I think, did you just mention a number, or was it more conceptually?
I didn't mention a number. I would look to the sponsors of the bill to see if they support that idea and if they had a higher number in mind.
I heartily support that idea after having conversations with some small farmers in my district who would be very interested in the ability to transition and diversify. They said that while they're so grateful for this bill, it feels almost a little bit too late, and they would love to see it grow in its appropriation because they think that it would be exceptionally popular for small farmers.
How far could we go in adding this and still be reasonably voted on? Like, could we double? Could we quadruple?
I don't think we can.
I think that the farther we go, and the less money we specifically take out, or the more money that we
Put in.
from one time and say, we would like to put that here, the harder it gets to look at it and say, okay, this is an ongoing program that will need that much money every year. And it may put at risk the money then no longer having it be in our requested one-time money. Balancing act, John.
I mean, it'd be interesting for you guys to talk about it, but I could see doing 250 base and doing 250 bifurcating it and do it as a match type thing or something slightly different, because there's money on the table here.
Right.
And you could do that as a pilot. If it's successful, then you could potentially turn it into $500,000 next year.
Did you?
I was just gonna say, if you bumped it up to like 400,000 and then you can give people larger grants, you wouldn't have the same people asking for money again. And then, I think it should just be bigger. I'm just gonna say that.
Okay.
But I do like the idea, people like the idea of a pilot and sort of see how it works, and we can actually. So I have a question then. If we're not obviously going to administer this grant, but how do we track the data, and how do we make sure that maybe we can increase the grant award a little bit? But then how do we know that that's been successful, and how will we know a year from now that transition or that diversification kept that farm going?
So I think the best way to do that would be in the bill to ask for some of that information.
And that could even just be in the grant reporting that's due at the end of the year. It doesn't have to be something that Agency of Ag needs to hire somebody to quantify data, but just insist that there's a, you know, a grant report at the end of the year.
Did you want to come up to the,
They do that.
they do that?
They do that, okay.
There's accountability in the program. Under the standard terms and conditions, you've got to report on your effectiveness under the grant.
Okay. So without our writing it into this bill, it'll happen. Okay. Dave?
Oh, I think, it's all right. Yeah.
So, all right, so I heard maybe one number there. I don't know if I heard any other thoughts on what a bigger number should be. I did hear general support for a bigger number. So,
Maybe double it?
And when you
Double
say
it.
double, do you mean 500 as
Base.
the base? Okay.
or alternatively, we could say 250 for the base and 250 in one time to sort of see how it looks.
I'd say yes to that too.
I like that.
Yeah.
That seems like an elegant
I
compromise.
think I heard somebody else saying, maybe John saying that, so
Yes.
he gets that credit.
Well, it feels like base is like that sled and tractor pulling, you know, that gets harder and harder to pull. And it feels like the more you add to base funding, it becomes harder and harder to pull.
Yeah, yeah.
There's lots of potential one-time money here that might slide by.
Okay. So, okay. Generally, people feel good about that. Back though to Dave, what you were saying earlier, I don't want you to feel that you're
No.
not being heard.
I'm just tired.
Yeah. If we want to if any sort of language, I know earlier, Representative Levitt spoke about maybe trying to put qualifications in, put language in that spoke to diversity. There is the agency did mention that, you know, in
Yeah.
sort of profile that they would be including that. Are you comfortable with what's there, and then leave it up to them to actually spell out what that means?
I think it's probably the safest thing to do. It's not quite as strong as I would like, but I'm okay working in the system for this and sort of pushing our way through a little bit slowly at a time.
Okay, see what happens and,
Yeah, and see how the law changes and see how other people have pushed the 14th Amendment and see if it gives us a little more.
okay, yeah. Okay, I'm not keeping track on a spreadsheet, but I know that if we take 250,000 and ask for it to be applied to this program, that's on top of 100,000 for Sustainable Jobs Fund, 500,000 for Salvation Farms. Within the Agency of Agriculture, was there another request?
And the field days, that doesn't come out of us. They just came in to make sure that we would support that. Okay.
What do we at?
We're not at much. We took a lot out.
We
500.
decided on which way we want to go with working land.
Yeah, so, yeah, working lands, this is the other sort of big question. I think we all agree that there's $4 million, whether to ask for some of that to be permanent or not. I think that in this case, I don't think that we're at risk of having anybody say, we can't make that work permanently, so we're not gonna fund the full 4 million. I think maybe here we're a little safer, going out on that limb and saying, yeah, we think that it would be great to have more of that 4 million be added to the base, maybe all of it.
You have them now.
And then, won't have to worry that, okay, that's not in the one-time anymore, so that's one-time money that we'll use for something else. I mean, maybe that's naive, but anyway, it feels that we'd be a little bit more on solid ground there.
Forest Parks and Rec, they're in the governor's budget,
Yeah,
so we don't have to worry about it. They figured out where that money's coming from, so okay, so they'll get their Forester 1, Forester 5, whatever.
all those positions.
Okay.
As well as the 3 different programs that they had asked for.
And then the tax folks, they get their money.
Yep.
Because they have that 2 million. I'm just trying to make sure we're not,
I'm sorry, the other one I didn't mention just now was the other one-time request that we asked about is 400 million. No, sorry. We've got too many zeros in there. The Sustainable Jobs Fund had one-time request.
How much?
I think it was 400.
1,000.
Yeah.
She says 100,000 and 200,000.
yeah, it's 300.
No, down below in the one time.
It's a different line. Yeah, it's way down there.
400 sounds right.
Did that not make it into this one?
251 and
Yeah,
50.
yep.
That's not, we haven't really been talking about that.
So maybe that just didn't make it into this chart. Yeah, there was something.
It made it in at 300, didn't make it in at 400.
Where are you looking?
I'm looking at the top, it says sustainable, it's on the first chunk.
400 one time to farm to play.
That's the one time. Sorry.
Wait, one time.
I'd be in favor of that. Cause it matches well with one time.
So, so just to be clear, what is on the chart, I think, if everybody's looking at the same thing, is a line that says Sustainable Jobs Fund. And then the next, after that is $100,000. That was the budget request. The 200,000 is what the Sustainable Jobs Fund requested for Farm to Plate. And then in addition to that, so it's an increase of 100,000 over the base. And then in addition, they had 400,000 in one-time requests for 3 different programs. And
So there's the lost grant.
that's why 100 is now 200. Possible, yeah.
And then it's 100 for independent retail grocers, 250 for beef on dairy, and 50 for alternative access land models project.
So their total nugget then is 700,000.
No, it would be,
So what's the 400,000?
so it would be
What I just said,
plus,
that makes up the 400.
Oh, got it, okay, sorry, we're all tired.
Yeah.
So I'll take that 400, okay, got it.
so the person who's tired is one with the spreadsheet over there, so,
Thank you for doing that, Josie.
yeah. But we're gonna double check your math before.
No, I mean, I could just share this, I mean, let me just go through what I have.
Yeah.
Okay, so local purchasing incentive,
No,
that's, I'm gonna go through every item and tell you what we've done with it.
okay,
That's Agency of Education.
right, good.
H205, we're gonna do 250, that's from ag money. Farm to school, 500,000, that's not coming from us. The 1.2 million for the land access opportunity folks, that's coming from housing, they're looking at that. VHCB is a tax thing, that's not on us. The food bank, Health and Human Services is doing that. VT field days, that's 200,000, but that's already in the budget, so I'm gonna take that out. I think I'll take that in a second. Universal school meals, other people are dealing with it. Conservation districts, well, it's too big for us. Someone else is gonna take care of the conservation districts. Serve, learn, and earn is coming from commerce. Sustainable Jobs Fund, 400,000, that seems to be us. Working Lands Enterprise, 3 million, that is not us. Correct? And then Salvation Farms is 500. So that's 500, a million, it's 1.6 million.
So,
Not bad for someone who failed algebra twice.
so
Yeah, I'll send it.
So let's just go over that again. I'm gonna sort of start at the bottom here. Salvation Farms, 500,000. in one-time funding that was not in the budget request. We're proposing it. Sustainable Jobs Fund, 400,000 beyond what was in the budget request, one-time funding.
There was, I thought it was 500 because it's
400,000
plus
of one-time
100.
funding beyond.
Just talking about one-time funding, yeah.
You just have to explain this 25 times.
Yeah.
You're the only one who
Yeah.
understands.
So just thinking here about the one-time funding
Right.
and what we want to come up with something that totals 10 million, I think.
Right.
So we've got 500 from Salvation Farm, 400 from Sustainable Jobs Fund, one-time funding. We've got, I think now 250 that we just talked about to move into H205. We have one other thing. Is that it?
More. Hang on. And we have the H205, that's all I had.
Okay, so those three things,
And I'm gonna send this to anyone who wants it.
well, hang on before you do.
Okay, I'm done.
Because a couple other things to go over. But those three things, I think with my, just adding those three numbers together, sort of in my head, come to 1,150,000.
I have four numbers.
Say them again.
I have Salvation Farms,
Yep.
Sustainable Jobs.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have the field days in here and I keep putting them in and we don't need them.
Okay.
So what you said,
So 1,150,000. So I think those are the requests that we've been talking about for one-time funding, other than working lands. So I know working lands is also that request. Then that leaves, take that number out of 10 million and you get 885. Which then we could say, this is our proposal for that program, essentially as is, just a smaller amount. Then the working lands, I think sounds like maybe there would be support for saying, yep, 4 million total, but we want to increase the base. And if they're not able to find funding to do that, then, it will go back in, I believe, into the one time. So
what's your final number for the H205 funding just for this budget memo?
So in one-time funding, it'll be 250, and in base funding, it'll be 250.
Okay,
And working lands then would be, did I hear a number before, or did I just hear a?
working lands is 4 million total.
Yeah. And base is 1, right?
Yeah, base is 1.
Yeah.
Isn't the 3 already in the budget?
It's in there as one time.
Yep.
Yeah. So the question is, do we want to recommend that the base be increased and keep the total at 4, but shift some of it into base?
I think what we wanna do is say, yeah, we want the base to be 4. We think that they're doing great work. They've shown us why their base should be 4. But if you're not gonna make that work, then yeah, our second preference would be we support base at 1 and 3 one time,
Okay.
right?
We're asking that understanding that the money will have to come from somewhere, and if we're asked, where is that money gonna come from, we don't have a good answer, but, okay.
Well, if we keep the base at 1 million, I'm not averse to pulling another million out of the ag thing, especially if we're gonna,
That's one time.
right.
I mean, we can only say that anywhere between 1 and 4, we would be happy.
Sure.
The base moving
Yeah.
upward.
Yeah,
Okay, just express general support for it and
yeah,
strong general support. Yeah. So,
sweet.
okay. Okay, and then I think we talked, everything else, I think we have generally said, yeah, I think we're good with that. Conservation districts, similarly, I think there was not a request for a one-time funding. It was a request to make this part of the base. And I think that what we probably want to do is say we support more money in the base budget going to conservation districts. $3 million annually would do all of this. And let the chips fall where they may on that. And then, yeah, I think everything else we've pretty much covered here. The Housing and Conservation Board money, that's the other large one. That's, I know I think Natural or Environment and Energy is also, supporting that. I mean, I'm sure that every budget session there are requests to fully fund it. I know that there are.
PHCB?
Yeah. Whether this year will be any different or not, I don't know, because again, it's where will that money come from? And not where will it come from, but it would need to be replaced by.
Who's using that money now?
Yeah, it's going into the general fund.
It is.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be, in the Budget Adjustment Act, it was 50 million, and then they've chopped it down to 27, and then it got chopped down to 15 from what the Senate did to the budget adjustment. So, I mean, getting them up to 27 would be great.
Yeah, the Housing Conservation Board is getting some housing money, one-time housing money that might be one of those numbers.
I sent everything to the calendar.
No, thank you for asking. Okay, good.
So can you draft a letter?
We're gonna draft a spreadsheet, I think. There'll be some prose to go along with it. And I think, I feel like we've sort of reached the end of this discussion for this year.
For this year.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for staying a little bit longer today and for all of the thought that you and we put into this. And
I'm sending you a copy.
Thank you.
so tomorrow, so
Thank you again.
You want a copy
we
of
had the
it?
Housing and Conservation Board scheduled to come in today to talk, not about the budget, but just to give us some background. They are not coming today. They
Won't have an audience.
Yeah, I think maybe they'll be in tomorrow, I'm not sure. So tomorrow we won't meet before the floor, we'll be on the floor at 9:30. Imagine that won't go all morning, so we'll be back here and we'll have a couple of things hopefully happen. One is we will have, I think, at least one person testifying on 126. That's the 30 by 30. I haven't heard from him yet, but I'm hoping to talk to you after about that. And then, Mike, do you think that we'll be able to look at a final draft of the housekeeping bill?
Yep.
Okay, so that's the agency's housekeeping bill. So we'll plan to review that and then vote it out. And then I'm not sure about the Housing and Conservation Board, but maybe they'll come in. So that probably won't be a long day tomorrow. I think just we had one other bill that we were hoping to have introduction on, but maybe it makes sense to wait until after the break so that we're not waiting 10 days before thinking about it again.
When's crossover again?
17th.
Friday after we get back.
So we have just 1 week.
Yeah. Yes, however, don't forget that if there's money associated with it, then there's more time and that we have other tools at our disposal for doing things.
If we had time and a bill that we wanted to take up that a sponsor is in this room,
We could do that, yes.
do that.
Yeah. Do you think you have one in particular? Just. Okay.
Throw a dart.
Yeah.
See what-
It's a good game. 368.
You hung around the pub, did you, Rodney?
Never said I would do that.
There's still a lot of strange out there.